Hello, everyone. Um, this is Jana Chantel, and I'm going to be giving you a reading this week. And I'm going to read you something from my book, Into My Mind. And it's the same story that I read at my book signing. So, the story is entitled Discard Mine. Here we go. Don't scratch too hard. Don't scratch too hard. The scar may bust open if I scratch too hard. I say to myself as I lightly run the tips of my fingernails up and down my stomach. The roughness and bumpiness of my scar reminds me of its fragility. I stare at my unclothed self in the bathroom mirror, my left arm subconsciously sliding over my stomach, trying to hide the scar. Even for me. 9 years, and I still have trouble showing off my scar. This scar of mine reminds me of that situation every time I look at it, as if it were a keepsake that I didn't want to keep. It's a symbol of strength. My auntie's voice rings through my head, but for some reason, it's hard for me to see it that way. Don't scratch too hard, don't scratch too hard. The scar may bust open if I scratch too hard. I wake up in a hospital room that is filled with Goodwill Soon cards, teddy bears, and balloons. I can see that it's a children's hospital. The paintings of giraffes and elephants on the walls give it away. The TV is on and the sound of cartoons plays in the background. Realization washes over me. What I thought was a dream has now become my reality. My 13-year-old self looks down to see staples running down the length of my stomach. Staples, a flimsy device that holds paper together. Paper. I try not to let fear appear on my face as I look over at my auntie who is looking at me, but I cannot help but to feel afraid. Staples are holding my stomach together. Good morning, Janae. My doctor greets me. He is followed by nurses and one other doctor. How are you feeling today? Okay, I say feebly. I'm far from okay, though. The doctor looks over my chart. I tell you, you are one lucky young lady. He looks up at me. 1 minute later, and you would have been dead. Or at best paralyzed. No, my auntie interjects. She's blessed. The doctor just looks at my auntie and smiles. Well, let's take a look at that scar, he says, returning his focus to me. I lift up my shirt, a little self-conscious about what they're going to see. My doctor and the other leans in to take a closer look. Ah, the other doctor says. That is beautiful. My doctor smiles with pride. I am baffled by this comment. You see how I didn't go around the belly button, but through it? Yes. Oh, yes, the other doctor says, please. That is remarkable. They both lean away and my doctor flips through my chart. Well, Janae, it seems like you're recovering very well. I just nod my head. Now, we did take out your appendix. It was completely shattered by the bullet. He goes on. We got most of the bullet out, but there is, however, a piece of it still inside of you. Fear becomes apparent on my face. It would have caused more damage to try to take it out than to keep it in, my doctor explains. But there might be some symptoms like vomiting and such. You'll be fine, my auntie says, reassuring me. I slowly look down at my stomach that is lined with staples. I imagine the fragment of the bullet inside of my body, determined to be a part of me. My doctor follows my gaze. We stitched up the inside of your stomach, and they'll dissolve so we won't have to go back in and take them out, he explains. And as you can see, we've also stapled your stomach. I still don't say anything. I just let all the information that he's given me sink in. You should be fine, Janae, he says, smiling at me. You have a nice day. I smile weakly and go back to looking at my stomach. Staples are lined up and down my stomach. I feel like a science experiment, like a freak. Don't scratch too hard, don't scratch too hard. The scar might bust open if I scratch too hard. I stare at my unclothed self in the bathroom mirror, the tips of my fingers mindlessly running up and down my scar. I think about those staples running down my stomach and the marks that they left behind. Nowadays, when I look hard enough, I can still vaguely see the puncture marks that they left behind. 19. My fingers go over those vague marks. I think about the piece of bullet that's still inside of me. Like the scar, the piece of bullet will be a part of me forever. Sometimes I feel like Harold Crick from Stranger the Friction, a piece of foreign object inside of me due to a near-death experience, but yet ironically, keeping me alive. Don't scratch too hard, don't scratch too hard. The scar might bust open if I scratch too hard. For a long time, I've lied to people about the story of my scar. At the age of 14, not even a year after I received my scar, I was sitting in the living room at a 9th grade friend's house. We were listening to music on the radio, and one of my friends is showing me how to hip roll. I lift up my shirt, revealing my stomach, when I see all of them stare. There's a long moment of silence when I realize my mistake. "What happened to you?" my friend Patricia asks, pointing at my stomach. I'm silent for a moment, thinking of my answer before I say it. Those who know me and know what happened to me all look at me differently. Pity lies behind their eyes, a look that constantly reads, "You poor, poor girl." I hate that look. I got my appendix taken out, which is partly true, but the real story behind my scar is much different. They all just nod and accept my story. I began to roll my hips to the music, secretly relieved that I didn't have to endure that pity look and 1,000 questions. Don't scratch too hard, don't scratch too hard. The scar may bust open if I scratch too hard. This scar of mine reminds me of the struggle that I've been through, the pain that I felt, the tears that I've shed, the straddling of sanity and insanity, life and death, reality and fantasy, and an infinite amount of other possibilities. As I stare at my unclothed self in the bathroom mirror, the tips of my fingers mindlessly run up and down my scar. I think about my recovery during the summer of '01. At the age of 13, it's hard for me to come to terms with the fact that I've been shot. I've had my brush with death and ended up escaping it. Just the fact that I'm able to walk around and say, "I've been shot and survived," it's a hard thing for me to swallow. It's hard for me to go back to the house where I was shot, so I stay at my stepmom's house for the summer. My recovery from the hospital was rough. Many nights I sit up crying while listening to Eminem sing For the Moment. I'll sit there wondering why I was still here. As lyrics for Eminem flow through my headphones, I sit there yearning for my mother and father. As I lay there with tears flowing from my eyes, I wonder why God still has me here. Occasionally, I'll run my fingers up and down my scar. Don't scratch too hard, don't scratch too hard. The scar might bust open if I scratch too hard. This scar of mine keeps me motivated to be better, to be successful, reminding me that every breath counts, every step I have to take, and every strategy has to result with me winning in the end. As every second, every minute, every hour, every day, every week, every month, and every year goes by, a part of me gradually gets better. A part of me slowly gets healed. A part of me progressively gets comfortable with my scar and the situation that got it there. My scar reminds me of the fragility of life. It reminds me of how at any given moment, life can be taken away from you. So now, I try to make the most of it. When I dream big, because you only get one opportunity and you gotta make it count. Don't scratch too hard, don't scratch too hard. The scar won't bust open if I scratch too hard. As I now, at 22 years old, stare at my unclothed self in the bathroom mirror, the tips of my fingers mindlessly running up and down my scar. I think about that saying that I tell myself. My fingers mindlessly running up and down my scar. The roughness and bumpiness reminds me of its fragility. But as I think about it, my scar is not fragile. It's been 9 years, and my scar hasn't bust open on me yet. It has remained strong. This scar of mine represents strength, represents determination, represents sorrow, represents struggle, represents success. It represents me. As I now, at 22 years old, stare my unclothed self in the bathroom mirror, tips of my fingers mindlessly running up and down my scar, I realize the whole phobia of my scar busting open has become a metaphor. Don't scratch too hard, don't scratch too hard. The scar will bust open if I scratch too hard. Whenever my scar itched, I would just pat it or scratch it lightly, just barely touching the surface. And at the age of 13 through 16, whenever I was asked about how I got my scar, I would just tell them that I got my appendix taken out, just barely touching the surface. I've been running from the fact that I was shot, and I did survive. For whatever reason, I've been ashamed of this. Don't scratch too hard, don't scratch too hard. The scar will bust open if I scratch too hard. As I now, at 22 years old, stare at my unclothed self in the bathroom mirror, my scar begins to itch. And now, I begin to scratch. Not a pat or just a light scratch. I dig deep, really making sure that itch is gone and would think twice before it comes back. I am no longer ashamed to tell people how I got my scar. When I was 13, I got shot. I'll tell them. And then I just smile once I see the shock written all over their faces. Finish scratching my scar, and I continue to stare at my unclothed self in the bathroom mirror. Ah, that is beautiful. I remember the doctor saying 9 years back. And now, as I look at my unclothed self in the bathroom mirror, I see that. It's a symbol of strength. My auntie's voice rings through my head. I now see it that way. This scar is mine. Thank you.